Welcome back to Tales from the Cult. I am your hostess with the mostest, Queen Karizma, and I'm back with another commentary video and Karizma Speaks podcast episode. Today we will be discussing the tragic cases of Jordan Neely's subway incident and Shanquilla Robinson's brutal demise in Mexico. We'll compare these cases and analyze the disturbing fact that both tragedies were recorded, yet the aggressors have not been charged. Additionally, we'll explore the rise of viral videos, the bystander effect, the impact on victims, the role of social media platforms, the legal and ethical implications, and how we can break this cycle. Let's dive in. In both instances, bystanders chose to film the horrifying scene rather than stepping in to help or call for assistance. This raises questions about our society's values and the role of social media in our lives. Jordan Neely was a 30-year-old homeless individual battling PTSD and depression. He discovered happiness in performing Michael Jackson impersonations on the trains and streets of New York City. NBC New York reported that Neely's family has hired legal counsel from Mills and Edwards LLP. According to lawyer Dante Mills, beginning at 14 years old, Neely was confronted with mental health challenges, as noted by NBC reporters, due to the violent death of his mother, Christine Neely, and her boyfriend was found guilty of taking her life. He received a 30-year prison term, while Neely, at 18 years old, had to testify. He was required to testify in court despite not having his mother with him. A heartbreaking incident occurred on May 1st, 2023, when Neely was choked to death by a fellow subway rider, reportedly due to a commotion linked to his mental health challenges. With a troubled background, including the devastating loss of his mother to a violent crime, Neely wept that day about his hunger and thirst as he seemingly experienced a mental crisis, a complete mental crisis on the subway. Bystanders chose to observe rather than help, even though Neely appeared unarmed and reportedly did not inflict physical harm or intimidate anyone. According to the New York Post, an independent journalist and eyewitness named Juan Alberto Vasquez said that Neely was loud and ranted, that he had no food or drink, and said he was tired and doesn't care if he goes to jail. Vasquez mentioned that Neely threw his jacket on the subway floor, and after that, a 24-year-old man named Daniel Penny took matters into his own hands. As bystanders looked on and recorded, Penny applied a fatal chokehold on Neely for a duration of 15 minutes. 15 minutes or longer. Two other passengers restrained Neely's arms and his hands until he passed away. The attack might have had racial undertones, as all three assailants seemed to be white men, while Neely was black, as seen in the viral video. Penny was taken into custody immediately after the incident by law enforcement, but subsequently set free, despite a medical examiner's conclusion that Neely's death was a homicide resulting from an obstructed airway. Ultimately, Penny faced no criminal charges, and it appears that he has obtained legal counsel. Penny's attorneys, Razor and Kenneth, PC, claimed in a statement that Penny and the others were defending themselves and that Penny never meant to harm Neely. Quote, Daniel never intended to harm Mr. Neely and could not have foreseen his untimely death. We hope that out of this awful tragedy will come a new commitment by our elected officials to address the mental health crisis in our streets and subways, end quote. Attorney Lennon Edward, who is representing Neely's family, stated, I took this case because 15 minutes is too long to go without help, intervention, and without air. Passengers are not supposed to die on the floor of our subways. The Independent in the UK reported that the agency responsible for New York's public transportation is the Metropolitan Transit Authority, and they unfortunately did not have cameras installed in the F train that Neely died in. Like most trains and subways in New York, there are no cameras. The city is just now prioritizing installing cameras for all New York residents' safety on public transportation. The NPR.org stated that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is investigating the matter, which could potentially lead to a grand jury deciding on an indictment as early as next week. However, no time frame was given into how long it could actually take. This illustrates, in my opinion, the overall indifference towards the lives of people who are not part of a specific racial or ethnic group considered important or elite. In addition, this case emphasizes the sustained privilege that some groups possess over others, making us question the true loyalties of the justice system. It is unfortunate that we frequently see these shocking viral videos on social media, but people seem to be more interested in gaining views, likes, and shares than in taking appropriate action, such as putting their phone away or using it to call for help or intervention. We now arrive at the story of Shanquilla Robinson, a 25-year-old who hailed from North Carolina. She actually went to a trip with 6 other individuals who she thought were her friends. They all shared a mutual bond and connection. They went to Los Cabos, Mexico on October 28, 2022. In less than 24 hours, Shanquilla's life came to a tragic conclusion. Her body was found in an ambiguous location, either the bathroom or maybe it was the living room. Well, due to inconsistencies provided by Mexican and American officials, it could have been either or, because there's so many discrepancies with the actual paperwork in Shanquilla's case. And in spite of a viral video displaying her being ruthlessly attacked by a companion on the trip, not only that, despite a follow-up autopsy examination that detected trauma in line with blunt force last month, the authorities conveyed to the grieving family that the evidence, the video, the evidence that they saw with their own eyes was inadequate for federal prosecution. Results like Shanquilla's case can lead families to feel hopeless in seeking justice for their relatives. And it can create mistrust among civilians who feel their lives are not valued. In Shanquilla's case, it is considered unethical, in my opinion, for friends to witness another friend being beaten to death without intervening, record the incident, upload it to social media, lie to the family about the cause of death, and not face federal prosecution, because it demonstrates a lack of compassion, empathy, and moral responsibility. Such actions not only disrespect the victim and their family, but also undermine the trust and social bonds that hold communities together. Additionally, the failure to intervene and the act of sharing the incident on social media can be seen as promoting violence and causing further harm to the victim's loved ones. The lack of federal prosecution in such cases may lead to a sense of injustice and erode public trust in the legal system. Now let's talk about the bystander effect. The bystander effect is a psychological phenomenon where individuals are less likely to offer help in an emergency when others are present. This can be exacerbated by the desire to capture and share shocking events on social media, further deterring people from intervening. Here are some examples of the bystander effect. 1. During a sports event, a fan in the stands experiences a medical emergency, but surrounding spectators assume that someone else will help or they will help themselves, resulting in a delayed response. Let me give you another one. In a busy shopping mall, a child is crying because they're separated from their parents. Many people noticed the distressed child, but everyone assumes that someone else will help, leaving the child unattended for an extended period. How about this one? In an office setting, a coworker is struggling to meet a tight deadline and is visibly stressed. Colleagues notice the situation but assume that someone else will offer support or assistance, leading to the struggling coworker feeling isolated and overwhelmed. The emotional toll on the victims and their families is immeasurable. The public sharing of these traumatic events can exacerbate their pain and make it difficult for them to find closure. It's crucial that we consider the consequences of sharing such content before hitting the upload button. Social media platforms play a significant role in the dissemination of these videos. While they can be a powerful tool for raising awareness, don't get me wrong, they can also contribute to the desensitization of violence and the normalization of bystander behavior. So what are the legal and ethical implications? The legal and ethical implications of sharing violent content, for example, they are complex. While freedom of expression is important, we must also consider the potential harm caused to victims and their families. Additionally, the lack of legal consequences for the aggressors in both of these cases raises concerns, at least for me, about the effectiveness of the justice system as a whole and the potential consequences of sharing such videos online. Now, my question is, how can we break the cycle? How can we break the bystander effect? Breaking the cycle of bystander behavior and prioritizing empathy and compassion starts with each one of us. But these are some steps we can take. 1, be aware of the bystander effect and actively fight against it by offering help or calling for assistance in emergency situations. 2, consider the impact on victims and their families before sharing violent or shocking content on social media. 3, encourage social media platforms to implement stricter policies on sharing violent content and hold them accountable for the content they host. 4, advocate for legal reforms that address the issue of bystander behavior and hold aggressors accountable for their actions. 5, promote empathy, compassion, and responsible social media use through education and public awareness campaigns. The tragic stories of Jordan Neely and Shanquilla Robinson serve as a stark reminder of the dark side of viral videos and the responsibility we all share in creating a more compassionate society. By understanding the factors that contribute to bystander behavior and taking steps to break the cycle, we can work together to foster a more empathetic and supportive community, both online and offline. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on this issue? And what actions do you think we can take to make a positive change? Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you are on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button. If you are listening to my podcast, make sure you rate me on Apple Podcasts. Rate me 5 stars, okay? I hope that I was able to teach you something new today. I'm definitely learning something new every day, and I think that we should just remember that these videos that go viral, these affect the family mentally, physically, and this is harmful. This is very harmful to the family, and I see a lot of disgusting comments. Again, I want to encourage my supporters not to engage with ignorant people online, people who are desensitized to lives that are being taken by crazy, entitled individuals. Don't go back and forth with them. Okay, just pay attention to how they feel about you, how they feel about Jordan Neely and people who look like him, people who are in this predicament. Any one of us could be homeless, God forbid. At any given moment, you never know what life has in store for you. Jordan didn't know what life had in store for him. He was mentally ill and he was treated as if he was a monster. No one helped him, but everyone criticized him. And even after death, they don't look at him as a human being in my eyes. We have to remember that these are human lives being taken by other people who think they have the power to just do whatever they feel like doing. And they are getting away with it in a lot of these instances. They are taking innocent people's lives because everyone deserves the right to live. And not one person can judge someone with life and death. You are not God. But obviously, Daniel Penny thought that he was God in that instant, and they restrained him and they did what they did. So I pray that justice is served for both Daniel Penny and Shanquilla Robinson, because in Shanquilla's case, again, there was a straight up video there. And they still said, oh, well, yeah, we see her getting beaten in the face and in the head and this and that. But, oh, we still don't believe that there was foul play involved. So we have to take a stand and continue to speak up about this, because this is trickling down to, a lawless society, in my opinion. Without consequences, what's the point of having laws? Tell me your thoughts. And with that being said, I'm out. Peace.